Hi, everyone. Welcome to the AAISP webinar series. Today's topic, Sales Playbooks. It's great you could join us. My name is Bob Perkins, and I'm with the AAISP. Some of you that are on the line may not be familiar with the AAISP. I'm sure many are, but briefly, the AAISP is an association community dedicated to the advancement of inside sales, digital sales, and sales in general. We work with both frontline sales reps and leaders. We have chapters around the world. If you haven't been to a local chapter, I'm sure there's one near you. And please get a chance to visit all the resources online that are available to both members and non-members. Get out to www.aaisp.org. Now, let's talk a little bit about today's topic. You know, we've heard a lot about sales playbooks over the last few years. How are they working? How do they work? Are they a bit of a bother, or perhaps our team's most powerful hidden resource? With us today, I'm very pleased to welcome Vlad Voskresensky. Vlad, how are you doing?
Thank you, Bob. Thanks for having me today. Doing very much. Very good. How are you?
Really good, and we reviewed some of the material earlier, and I'm super excited because I think this is going to be very relevant and get a lot of your questions answered. Make sure that you get out there, use the chat, ask a question. You can use Q&A as well. People like to use the chat to make comments, ask questions. We'll try to get to as many as we can. So with that, with only 30 minutes, we need to move along. So Vlad, all yours.
Thanks much. And I fully agree with you. Let's keep it interactive. So should you have any questions, feel free to drop it in the chat. We'll definitely focus and discuss and brainstorm around that. And before I even start with the topic, let me tell you why I'd like to talk about the topic. What makes me confident that I have something to say, if you would. So by nature of our business, we work with a lot of sales teams, all around the globe. With smaller teams, like few people show up to multinational, global, multi-thousand companies. And to some degree, they all try to entertain playbooks these days because it's a popular term, to some degree, maybe even a hype. And we've seen very different results. Sometimes they're quite contradictory. And once we've seen that, we started to kind of dive deeper, trying to understand. So what's the difference? Why for some of those companies and some of those groups, playbooks are really big change and big help, but for the others, it doesn't really help and even distracts them from the sales process and sales results. To myself, I even made that conclusion that it's somehow similar to the nuclear energy, right? You can use it in the right way and get exceptional results and very nice value, or one may create the atomic bomb and ruin pretty much everything all around. So anyway, we have this poll going on the screen, and I'd like you guys to answer that very simple question: are you using playbooks? Because I'd like to pay attention to the results of a poll through the webinar itself, and then talk about those. So the way I want to shape the webinar, it's actually three logical parts. First, I'd like to share with you some stats, some insights, some learnings we have got from the market and from the customers we work with about the background of playbooks. Why do they exist? What works? What doesn't work? Etc. Maybe a little bit of a theoretical and statistical information, but I think it's crucially important to understand how to use playbooks in the right way and why they may not work. And then the majority of the webinar I'm going to spend on talking about three practical use cases. We've picked one in prospecting, one in sales, and one in upselling and upscaling your business. These are the practical use cases. How do we like to approach the playbooks, even internally at our company? How do we see others who are successful with the playbooks to approach those areas? And I'm just going to share with you those insights. Maybe it will give some nice ideas for you guys. And then last but not least, I'm going to wrap up with the example of building the playbook template in one of the scenarios. There are obviously the universe of the scenarios. So we've picked the sales playbook, the exactly sales process, not prospecting, not upselling, but primarily sales process. And I'm going to talk a little bit how others are doing this for them and when it works. So with this, if I would take a look at the results of a poll, and by the way, how do I do that? Oh, here we go. Okay, so they're very interesting, and 13% are saying that playbooks are magic, 31% are saying we have them, but they are not that impressive, and more than half, like 56%, are saying that no, we're not using them for a bunch of reasons. And this is very, very, in line of what we hear from the market, of what we know. The results are very, contradictory. Like it is just, there are different polls, right? Like either very bold plus or very bold minus. And as I've said, when we started to dive into the problematic area, our first learning was that we probably are asking here the wrong question. It should not be the question, are we using playbooks? It shouldn't be the question, are we, like, what is playbook, right? Sales playbook. It shouldn't be the question, are we enabling the way to sell? In modern world, there should be the question, are we enabling our buyers to buy from us? And if you approach the sales playbooks topic with this in mind, then the results are very much different. So that was a very nice, interesting, eye-opener learning for us. And as I have said, when we've started to dive deeper into the problematic area, what exactly makes companies more successful with the playbooks, we have found very similar, very contradictory statistics. And part of it is on your screen. So just to focus on some of this, while more than 70% of the companies believe that the playbook will help them to sell better, more than 60% of the companies don't use them. And at the same time, 15% of better quota attainment with the sales reps who are using playbooks. And at the same time, very interesting discovery, nearly half of the sales reps are thinking that playbooks are taking out their freedom. The room for their creativity is even less and less and less when we put on them those playbooks. They increase the routine, etc. And they hate that. They don't like it. So interesting, learnings and results, and diving deeper, we started to ask ourselves questions like, so why company don't use them if they are so great by the expectations? And while working with the different sales teams and reading through a lot of researches and working with the visionary people in sales industry, I think it's really important to look at the playbooks from the prospect of what's going on within the sales automation and sales landscape in general, right? So, these are the obvious reasons on the screen. This is how our ecosystem is changing. This is how sales ecosystem is changing recently. And as I have said, it's very important to project those changes on the playbooks and how do you approach the playbooks, how do you create playbooks, and how do you behave with the playbooks. So sales process gets more and more complicated. We all know that. It was interesting to learn that around 20% of B2B buying decisions are taking longer than 1 year these days. So the cycle is really long, and your playbooks need to be able to support your sales reps, your sales org along the whole process. More importantly, another very interesting changes on the market which are happening and influence, significantly influence the playbooks. B2B buyers right now, they are more self-reliant. The LinkedIn came up with a report which says that 60% of a buyer's journey are right now being traveled alone by the buyer without even a seller. And if you think about this, how can you come up with the playbook which is supposed to tell sales rep how to behave if nobody even is in touch with the sales rep? It should be smarter than that. But at the same time, there is a lot of information already on the market, and buyers are reporting that first of all, it's a good quality. So we know how to sell. All of us already learned how to sell, and we prep very good content. We arm, our potential buyers very good, but it's overwhelming for them. So if your sales playbook is not answering to that question, and if within your playbook you say to your sales reps like share this collateral, put this deck, etc., it's not going to help. It should be something else. And then third area, it's the decision-making process by itself. It's by far not linear anymore. Probably it never was linear, but it's very not linear right now. There are more and more people involved, like 5-7 people minimum are involved into the B2B buyers' decisions. But more interesting, buyers are coming back in the process, in the cycle, to the previous stages. And if playbook is not enabling your sales org to feel comfortably in that situation when you think you passed that stage, but then it's kind of back because buyer wants to be back. Then your playbook will not help, and then your playbook will put your seller into the cage of process, and this is where he loses his freedom and doesn't feel that playbooks help them.
Vlad,
So, uh-huh.
yeah, sorry, just a quick question for you on that. It seems like the sales training, sales development, in part, playbooks are a type of enablement platform. But thinking of training and development, years ago, it was based on a typical buying journey, which didn't include the buyer being so self-educated, right? And I think some of that still gets trained today. So this playbook is really a real time. It can be a moving type of document that you're updating based on how your particular buyer wants to be sold to. Is that accurate? I mean, you don't set it up once and it's good for forever, right?
This is absolutely accurate. So I see the question in the chat. Good to see. It would be good to see the good and bad example of a playbooks. I'm not going to open the particular playbooks to analyze them. We don't have time for that. But at the high level, and back to your point and your question, the bad playbook, the bad example of a playbook, will try to tell your sales reps what to do. As you have said, here's the linear, or maybe not linear, but here's the buying process we envision. We expect our buyers to follow that process. And this is what your sales guy needs to do on the first stage, on the phone, at the follow-up meeting, etc. A good playbook is not a how-to guide, but this is the set of knowledge, tools, insights to enable your sales rep to behave properly at whatever stage he is within the sales process. And even if he eventually is back, just because buyer wants to be back, because buyer calls him and says like, look, I've read on one website that you guys are doing this, but then it's a very contradictory information on the other web resource, which says that you don't do that. Can you comment on that? And by the way, your competitors are doing this or not. There shouldn't be the clear answers within the playbook, because then it's not going to work. It's going to confuse only. But it should be an kind of an enablement content within the playbooks itself, what sales rep needs to be doing in this situation. So if I will go forward and kind of switch to those real life use cases and examples, and again, we don't have much time to focus on a lot of them, so we picked 3 from one of the most critical priorities for sales, like prospecting, closing, and upselling, 1 in each. And those use cases I'd like to cover would be difficulties of a prospecting, and then how do we get the better quota achievement, and then how do we grow the accounts, not just save them, but we grow the accounts. I always love to approach all of the use cases from the challenges standpoint first. So what's the challenge within the use case, and then how do we answer that challenge? And obviously, these are the high-level use cases for the whole sales process. But my point is that how exactly playbooks may help or may not help, if it's impossible. So how playbooks can potentially help to solve the challenge and to make to achieve the use case itself. So let's dive in, and the first use case is within sales. Within the prospecting, here's the statistics, which when I've seen this in one of the reports, it was shocking to me. It technically says that more than half of the marketing qualified leads are being disqualified by sales orgs, right? It's like, wow. So, and then, shocking. We started to try to understand like why, and it's partially because of what we have been already discussing today, because we do not prep marketing qualified leads as sales orgs right now expect them to be prepped. And that's mainly because buyers are being overwhelmed with the information, and they are armed with the information, but they at the same time they struggle to make the right decision. And sellers often are still working the old way. They keep overwhelming them with the information. They put more and more information on them. So let me jump to the next slide. These are those nice statistics, and the reasons behind that challenge even. So it's really interesting that buyers, 90% of the buyers are saying that the quality of the information they get from all of the sellers is okay or good. At the same time, they say it's too much. So what we've seen within the playbooks, which really worked for people when they when they apply this, it's when the playbook itself coaches the sales reps not to be a giver of the information. Literally, do not tell your sales reps so they behave like, I can give you, dear buyer, this and this and this collateral. Get from me this PDF, watch this webinar, etc., etc. Do not be a giver. Do not be a teller when the sales rep tells, hey, you know what? Let me know what you need out of all that information. And you like forget about this, but read this and this collateral. But more importantly, it's when the sales rep is helping to make sense from all of the information which is already around. So this sense making, this confidence within buyer that he's making right decision is the key on that stage. And when your playbook is actually enabling your sales guys to help buyers to become confident in the decisions they make, we do not make any decisions for buyers anymore. We do not convince them to make this or that decision. They consume the information themselves. They travel the buyer's journey themselves. They make the information, they make the conclusions themselves. But if you help them to make sense out of all of the information they have, then they make a decision towards you. And that was our learning, that the most successful playbooks within prospecting were like those. Again, not a silver bullet, not a how-to guide, but an enabler. How does sales rep should work with the buyer to make him confident that choosing you, they do right decision. It was kind of interesting inside. So moving forward towards the sales scenario, how do we increase quota achievement with the playbooks? So I've already injected the statistics in the beginning. 15% of the sales reps achieve better results with the quota, but I would say only 15% of the sales reps get that result. Why not more? And why they're not using the playbooks? So partial answer to that is the complexity of a sales journey. And right now, it's not a path, it's more like a maze. And as I have commented already, there are 6 traditional steps within the buyer journey according to Gartner. But Gartner reports that today, at least once, every step is being revisited before making the final decision purchase. And if those steps are being revisited, maybe with different people, et cetera, your sales playbook needs to be ready for that. And again, you cannot come up with the linear playbook which tells your sales guys what to do, how to drag your prospects from one stage of the opportunity to the next stage of opportunity, etc. It's more about the the enablement people of your sales reps to engage with prospects at the right time when they need to be engaged, when they want you to be engaged with them. Give them the right information, or maybe give them additional information if they are revisiting the stage. And it means that within your playbooks, there should be the data which you expose first, which you put on top if they are back to that stage, and things like that. And one more time, the same conclusion. You should build the confidence into their decisions across this journey through the maze, that they're doing the right decision. And again, if your playbook enables your sales guys to do that, to kind of achieve this, they're going to love the playbook. If you make it linear, and if you tell in the playbook, do this, do the outreach email campaign, then call, then meet, then do it, etc., they're going to hate it, because if something goes not according to the play, then that's it. It's like like a football game. If the ball goes the other direction and I'm here, like, wow, that's it, we lost the game.
Glad,
yeah.
Just a comment here. I think this is important, that a lot of teams, let's say you're sitting in a group of 20 SDRs, BDRs, or sales executives, and 2 or 3 of them are hearing a common objection come up, and they developed a great reply to this objection. Oftentimes, that may or may not get shared. If it gets shared, it might get forgotten. So the playbook can sort of memorialize, hey, if this objection comes up, which it's going to come up, here's 2 or 3 great replies how to handle that objection.
Exactly. But it shouldn't be telling like, look, you have to mention this.
Right.
Even if it's not coming up in the discussion, you have to mention that we're better than competitors by that we're doing this. No need. Your buyers are very unique, and you need to behave in a unique way with them, in a specific way with them.
Yeah.
Great. Absolutely true. So, and then the use case within growing your accounts. So interesting insight. I mean, kind of obvious, but people always forget about that. Retention does not equal growth, right? So if you do better services for your customer, you have nice retention, but it does not mean that you grow your accounts. And if you would like to come up with the playbook which would arm your business to grow from existing accounts, from existing customers, then the playbook should be slightly different. So the challenge behind the use case is that only 28% of companies meet their account growth targets. They may have good retention, but they do not grow from the existing customer base. And in the modern world, it's a very nice measurement of a healthy subscription business if you grow from your existing customer base, et cetera, et cetera. So how to get better results here, and how to come up with a playbook which really would impact this. I would probably not focus on those statistics. It's on the screen, kind of self-explanatory. But the main idea of a playbook within customer support and growing the accounts is to lay out the vision within the playbook, how we can help our customers to improve their business with our product, how we can figure out the ROI around our commercial relationships, etc. So it's not just the support, it's not just doing amazing service, but it's discussion with the customer, trying to get again sense for them in using our product. They all had some ideas when they bought our product. Those ideas may become real, may be slightly changed through the life journey of using our product, which is fair enough. But if we are in touch with them, trying to understand, did they achieve their initial goals? Do we influence their results? Do we give them the real value? Then it gives us a chance to upsell. And again, if you are coming up with the playbook, you cannot say in the playbook that you're going to renew and upsell if you have, SLA met, if you have 0 cases opened, etc., etc. You have a chance to upsell only when your playbook coaches your team to understand the business of this particular customer, to kind of, discuss with them how we can do better and how the product can do better for them. Figure out the ROI from the product for them, so then they can justify and hopefully, enable more people on your service or on your product within their business. And this is what differentiates the playbooks we've seen working within customer success management versus those who are, again, does not work and only put, CSM engineers in cage and does not let them, to be free, so to say. So moving on, in sake of saving the time, very important topic is who to involve in the process. And I would say that the main takeaway here is I have never ever seen a successful playbook which was created by a single person. Doesn't matter who it is. It may be a CEO of a company, maybe a best sales rep, but if it's just a single play, it doesn't work. It's only teamwork. And I think it's a bunch of reasons behind that, but everybody should be involved reasonably. First of all, why? Well, why they should be involved? First of all, because they have something to say, obviously. Marketing, sales guys, account execs, they do have some input. And second, probably the most important, if you don't involve them and you only put on them those playbooks, it's your playbooks, not their playbooks. If they are involved, it is to some degree their playbooks, and they are more open to use that. They are more open to contribute to changing the playbooks. And by the way, playbooks are never strict and fixed on the stone forever. You have to adjust them. But if you involve right people, integrating the playbooks, only then you have a chance to come up with something which people will use, and it will help your company. At the same time, we've seen that the playbooks are more successful within the company when they're being championed from the top managers. So not being pushed like, hey, we need this playbook, get it and use it. But if the championing is coming from the top management in the sense that, look, we need the playbooks to achieve those goals. We don't know yet, let's come up together with the content of a playbook, but we have that challenge, we have that goal. Remember the use cases I went through? Challenge first, and then an attempt to focus on potential resolution. And then you involve people, and then you have a team playbook, which team is happy to play. So, that's the main comment I wanted to make on the the team who and how creates the playbook itself.
Yeah, and in fact, just a quick announcement here. We're gonna, on the follow-up to this webinar, everyone who registered will get a URL link to a great resource, which is going to help guide people through what do they need to consider in developing a playbook, how to develop it, some of the pieces and components to it. So everybody look forward to that. It's a great resource. So thanks.
Cool. Yeah, and then shifting to the last subtopic of our discussion today is what needs to be included into the coming up with a nice playbook, with the playbook which will make some impact. It all depends on what playbook are you coming up with. I've said that in my example, we're going to be looking at the playbook in sales process itself. So say if we're doing the sales play template, the sales play playbook, again and again and again, the most important is not to come up with the exact strict steps, but the goal setting. Specify the points why we are doing this. And for us, when we think about the sales playbooks, the main points are, maybe for the other playbooks as well, it's the goals, what we try to achieve with the play, time, when this or that should happen, and it's not linear. Remember, we can go up and forth depending on what buyers wants from us. The results, how do we measure the outcome, and then the tools, which is important. Tools and assets, how do we arm our people to go through the play? Because again, it's the play. Football game, it's a very good analogy. You don't know what's going to happen, but you know the situations you may end up with. And if you know how to behave in those situations, that's going to help. So, and then, on the right side of your screen, this is the potential play. And again, remember, it's not linear. Even though there is a line on the screen, it's never linear. You may enable your people with the areas in your playbook when you say, hey, here are the set of a potential templates you may use depending on the situation, but never tell them like, here is the outreach template which I want you to send. Doesn't work this way. Give them some freedom. Same about the discovery call. You may give them the bullets which they may bring if they feel they should, or if they hear the customers are asking about that or leaning towards that discussion. But at the same time, never give them the particular script to follow in a robotic manner, things like that. So, kind of wrapping up, I think that steps are less important than those 4 bullets. What are your goals? What's your timeline to make that play? Do you have time even to play that? What the results and how do you measure that? And what tools and assets you have to support that? So, for us, we've seen these are like, one of the most successful playbooks are being built with that mindset. In mind. You have a question?
Yeah, well, we had a comment come through. I thought it was great.
Okay.
It basically said, besides the playbooks, which can be helpful, you got to remind, teach, encourage, allow sales reps to kind of think on their feet, adapt, adopt, succeed, fail, right? Learn from every situation, and absolutely, that's
Come
probably
back and update playbook. Absolutely,
yeah.
a feedback. It's a very dynamic, like our world. Absolutely, not even a question about it. Fully agree about it.
We got another question. We saved a couple minutes here at the end for Q&A, so please feel free to jump on the chat, ask your question, make a comment. We'll get to it. We have a few minutes, and again, you're going to get a great resource via a URL link to a playbook guide. Right, so.
Lovely.
And we're not using them. Maybe now you will.
Well, yeah, and then the comment from my end, as I have said, we're not doing any business with the playbooks itself, but we're next to the playbooks. We've seen a lot, and it's our passion, it's our hobby to kind of dive in and understand what works, what not. We are happy, to chat, in details and deeper. And if you want, give us a buzz. There is no cost associated. We don't make money out of it. It's our hobby, but we will be happy to dive deeper into your particular playbooks and see how it may be adjusted based on what we know from the market, things like that.
Yeah, this is a great, really giving back to the community. So take advantage of this. We as an association rely heavily on peers helping peers, practitioners helping practitioners, leaders helping other leaders. That's what we're all about. And Vlad, this is a great that you would offer up your time and thought leadership. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that. Always
Please
open.
reach out to either one of us. Here's our contact information. We'd love to hear from you, the community, the people that are, right in the middle of challenges and trying to, not be the 62% that doesn't make quota, but trying to make your quota. So please reach out. Let's see if we have anything here. I think that's about it. Vlad, thank you so much. Revenue Grid, thank you for coming on
Thank you.
sharing this. And until next webinar, until next chapter meeting, next conference, everyone, great selling and good playbooking. All right.
Thanks, Bob. Thanks everyone to attend. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.